So in this video, I'm going to answer a few questions about ZWIBook, and then I'm going to demonstrate how it works. Now, 69,020 books is a lot of books. How about, and of course, there are a lot, aren't there? Some authors have large bibliographies, like, how about Alcott, Teresa? Yeah, there's a lot of books here. Right. Of course, it doesn't matter what order you use. And again, there's a lot of his books. It looks like there's a few different versions of Moby Dick here. It supports different kinds of searches. For example, I could say, there's a lot of books that have either blue or red in the title. But if I change this, then it's a much shorter list of books. So it supports that kind of old-fashioned search. If you want to look at books that are by Shakespeare, then, well, here they are, and it's got all of the plays, of course. If you search for title, then you have all the books that are about Shakespeare. What are some of my favorite topics to search for? Well, there's this. So some interesting books here for philosophers. The entire theologico-political treatise. This is pretty cool to actually have a copy of some relatively obscure classics. All of the Summa Theologica. I mean, how cool is that, really? It's amazing. It's very long, obviously, and it's all here. Next, let's look at this feature. Let's find one with a lot of results. How about, so if I want, I could search by, or rather sort by author. Or I could try by title. Oh, how about this? Sorting by date actually gives you a timeline. Let's have a look at the category browser. There are a lot of interesting categories. This is the Library of Congress system. There's over 1,000 of them, I believe. Let's try philosophy. And of course, not all of philosophical works are going to be in the subcategories. Some of them will be in the main category. And if we simply sort by date again, then we're going to begin with the earliest works, which would include Confucius and Socrates, Plato, etc., and on down through the Middle Ages and the Renaissance, etc., and it gives you a very nice selection of philosophical works. Here's the entire philosophical dictionary by Voltaire. And here it is all in one volume. And the great thing is, it's on the drive. Let's look at a little bit at visual arts and perhaps painting. Again, I think sorting by date is a good idea. Treatise on Painting by Leonardo da Vinci. I mean, did you know that such a thing existed? Isn't it neat to actually have the thing itself right here? I guess there's one other thing that I'd like to show you here, and that is the American Literature category, which has almost 11,000 entries. And here, perhaps you'd want to search by author. Now, it actually took a second to resort all of these because there's so many items. What's another good American author here? Okay. All right, and here's a whole section of his works. I'm not even sure where it begins. There's so many here. Wow, all of these. It's really something amazing. And look at this. I didn't know that there was a play, apparently, by Hawthorne called The Scarlet Stigma. And if you start reading this, then because you're reading it in your own place, as it were, you will be more inclined to finish. And I'll show you why. If you come over here to the bookshelf, and then let's go ahead and sort by the default sort. The most recently opened book is going to be The Scarlet Stigma, the one that we just looked at. And here's Leonardo da Vinci, etc. And if you wanted to make sure you didn't lose track of this one, then you can just press this button right here and come back here, and now it's been added. I think I will have a look at that. I have to say, I've really enjoyed collecting this list of books here, and I'm sure it will get bigger. So, like, here's something I studied a lot in grad school, and I saved some other philosophical works. And then I thought I would see if I could find some Greek primers, because I'm thinking of going back and, getting back into my study of Greek. And I studied Latin with my sons here. This is one that we've gone through 100 pages of. Yeah, it's a great book, and I put some effort into making sure that it was rendered reasonably well on the page, and I think it is. So it's very usable. Well, when you've got the book like this, notice it goes straight to where you last left off. You can take notes here too. We'll get into that, Well, I've just had any number of discoveries. So everybody knows about Pilgrim's Progress by John Bunyan, but did you know about Grace Abounding to the Chief of Sinners, which is biographical and also famous, but not as many people know about it. But there it is. Here's Luther's commentary on the Epistle to the Galatians. So sometime I'll do a study of Galatians, and I'll go through this work by Luther as I read it. I'm looking forward to that. Here is a book about a medieval encyclopedist, which I've started going through. Yeah, it's pretty interesting, actually. Look at this. This is called Old Friends and New Fancies. It's an imaginary sequel to the novels of Jane Austen. And check this out, about 377-page novel. One of the first fan fictions, I guess. It includes characters from Pride and Prejudice, Mansfield Park, Northanger Abbey, Sense and Sensibility, Persuasion, and Emma. They all appear in the book, apparently. So I'm very happy with how this feature turned out. Books saved and books viewed. So now I've shown you search, I've shown you category browsing, and I've shown you the bookshelf features. Let's talk about some of the book reader features. Here is a 1519 classic by Martin Luther, and it's really interesting, important piece of Protestant history. So let's talk about some of the basic features. There's forward arrows and back arrows. You don't have to use them. It's all one page, but having these forward and back arrows Makes it a lot easier. Now, if you've ever tried to read a book that is all on one page like this, it's very off-putting because we really like to have books divided into pages. So that's one of the reasons why I added this. And so there's actually a lot to show you here. You can print or save the PDF. And if you save a PDF, it's, as you can see, I took some time to nicely format it. It looks rather good, if I may say so myself. It took a little while to get that working properly. You can also export the ZWIB file, basically just a zip file that has the contents of the original. It doesn't actually have your notes in the ZWIB file, it has the original. Now, for various reasons, you might want to look at the original Project Gutenberg book pages. So here is the page for Concerning Christian Liberty at Project Gutenberg. And of course, it's deep linked. So if you want to get the EPUB, as long as you're online, you can do that. You can actually just go straight here, and it saves it. So it's not built into the app, and it's not available offline. Maybe a later version. There are some other features here that are worth pointing out. There's Find on Page, which is very useful. I want to search about salvation. So every mention of the word salvation is going to be here. And you might say, well, we've got that online. Well, you've got that online, but you don't have that online for all the books that you're reading or researching at the tips of your fingers. Suffice it to say, having all of your books, the ones that you own and that you are managing in one place, makes a feature like full text search just a lot more useful. For scholars, this has an obvious use. Anybody who does any sort of textual scholarship will immediately see why that is a good thing. Has a variety of font styles. Yeah, I mean, you can zoom in, you can zoom out. The keyboard shortcuts work. The mouse shortcuts work. Okay, for certain authors, and when certain words like poetry or verse appear in a title, then I separate the lines automatically. You can merge the lines, and when you do, it ends up looking like this. It still is fairly, smart about when to separate them, but then you come up with things like this on some of the texts. So you want to keep them separate. It's pretty smart about which books to separate and which to merge. If you're at all familiar with Project Gutenberg, then you know that Project Gutenberg books often have this sort of thing at the beginning of them. In many cases, I was able to hide them behind a link, just making the whole thing look a little nicer. And so when you go to print, or rather, it's easier to look at the PDF. You see, the front matter doesn't appear there. It just skips right over that and ends up looking all right. There are bookmarks, and whenever you add a bookmark, it appears up here. You can delete the bookmarks. I guess this is where I have read up to most recently. If you skip around books a lot, like you're reading it, but you're also like going back maybe for research or study purposes, whatever, then it can be useful to have those bookmarks. But also, when you leave a book and you come back to it, it will pop you right back to where you left off automatically. So next, let's talk about what is perhaps the biggest feature of the reader, and that is highlights. So if I want to add a highlight I just do this and I click one of these, or I can just click Y for yellow, and there it is. When I click on an existing highlight, then it gives me this, and I can make a note. A note has to be associated with a highlight. And it's automatically saved. There's no save button because, well, it's not needed. It's saved. Each keystroke is saved. See, the period that I just deleted is still deleted. All right. Let's see. Now, all that being said, here I'm gonna delete this. It says there's a note attached. I pressed the backspace key, by the way, to delete. And yes, I'm going to go ahead and delete both the highlight and the note. Now, if you do put a lot of work into your notes, as I do, then it's pretty important that you export your notes, or in other words, save them. So what you do is you come over here, export highlight note data, and it gives you this interface, which allows you to do that. And so I hope that you'll use that, because I don't want to make any guarantees. I don't know of any outstanding bugs that would cause your data to be lost. Just be careful when you do export and import notes. These look very similar, right? So don't export when you mean to import. Don't import when you mean to export, or else you might inadvertently overwrite your files. By the way, if you're curious about these particular notes, I can actually show you something. If you look back at your drive, then go here at the top level directory. So if you click on sample bookshelf notes, these two files are my bookshelf and my notes. I'm not particularly proud of that. It just sort of gives you an idea. Next, have a look at this right here. This actually gives you a summary of all the highlights in the notes. If you come over here, it has all of the highlights. So this is everything that I highlighted, and only what I highlighted, and separated by this, which, and if I click on something, yes, it's going to go straight to that thing. I can display all, show all the notes. I can show just the yellow ones, just the red ones, green ones. If I show all of them, it looks like that. And have a look at this. You can copy the text of the highlights, and then when you open up and paste into a word processing program, it gives you this, which is pretty darn cool if you ask me. And then if you don't want to have the highlights when you paste, then all you have to do is do that. We'll copy again and paste in here. And there they are without the highlighting. So similarly, in the Notes tab, this gives you both the highlights and the notes all in one nice interface. And again, I can easily see somebody making their own annotated edition of a book. I'm almost tempted to do that myself, to be honest. And it's, I just have to say, I like this feature a lot, because I could, if I were teaching a book, or for that matter, if I were a student and I wanted to share my notes with my professor or with an LLM or something like that and get feedback, I could do that. I could grab this I could go to ChatGPT, put it in and see, give me your feedback on my highlighted text and notes from Luther's concerning you can see, I hope, that when you are actually studying a text in the context of stuff that you own and you can easily control in this way, then it just makes a lot of things easier. And if I were in grad school again, or if I were like a full-time professor again, then I would be all over this, seriously. So I actually would recommend that you, if you get your hands on this drive, that you go here to About ZWIBook and scan this page a bit. I think you'll find some useful information. All right, in a later video, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through my notes on this letter of Martin Luther to Pope Leo X, and to both demonstrate how one might use this to take notes and comment on a text, and also just for the theological interest of the thing. But that's what I have for you now, and I hope you have found this video to be useful. And if you don't have a ZWIBook, I really hope you will get one. Again, the way to get your hands on a ZWIBook is to go to shop.encyclosphere.org, and if you want a hand-signed copy, I don't actually have one prepared right now to show you. Well, the drive anyway looks like this, but this doesn't have a label on it yet. So we actually put the labels on it. I actually sign it and number it. We're up to the 160s, but I'm sure that number is going to be higher by the time you watch this video. These are the ones that are more mass-produced, and they're $50. So thanks for watching.